My daughter runs a monthly cake stall. She cooks these beautiful brownies. She does beautiful cinnamon scrolls, Rocky Road and M&M cookies.
The ingredients for making babies have never changed. It's just that some modern Australian families are now using a different recipe.
We felt this man gave us a wonderful, wonderful gift. Because of our circumstances, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride.
So are you a dad or a donor?
I'm a dad, a hands-on dad.
Do you have any regrets about having to fight for your parenting rights in the High Court of Australia?
None whatsoever.
Do you regret having so much contact with the biological father?
We didn't have so much contact. All through Susan's pregnancy, where was he? Nowhere.
The Family Court of Australia suppresses the identities of those involved to protect the children. This case is so unique and has posed so many questions about the modern family that although I can't show you their faces for legal reasons, tonight, for the first time, you'll hear from both sides of this landmark ruling. A ruling which saw the very definition of the word parent taken all the way to the High Court. His family court-given pseudonym is Robert Masson, the biological father who, in 2006, successfully helped a lesbian friend conceive a baby girl via artificial insemination.
Right from the beginning, I remember cutting the umbilical cord, giving her a first bath in the birthing suite, changing her first nappy. I mean, at one point we were even talking about moving in together and raising the children under the one roof. And we always said that once the children went to school that I'd have 50-50 care.
The court-given pseudonym for the girl's biological mother is Susan Parsons. Her partner's pseudonym is Margaret. Biological father Robert Masson says that you were always co-parents and even discussed moving in together. Is that the understanding that you went into the birth of your daughter with?
No, not at all. I was with Margaret at the time and Robert had met Margaret and Margaret was my partner.
Susan and Margaret weren't able to prove they were in a de facto relationship at the time of conception, a detail that would prove crucial later on. So Robert Masson is on the birth certificate as the father. He was present at the birth.
Correct.
And helped you to create your daughter. How is he not the father?
Oh, he is the father, but he hasn't parented the child.
We had a period of, 6 years where things worked really well. We had this really great family unit that functioned really well.
Slow down.
Adding another layer of complexity to the case, just over a year after their first child was born, the mothers had another daughter. This time, Robert wasn't the donor, but the younger child also calls him Dad. There's plenty the parents don't agree upon, but they do agree that things began to go awry when the women planned to move the girls overseas.
Let them run.
Everything seemed to change, and the concept of moving to New Zealand was introduced as an option.
Well, when things really changed, it was when we were relocating. Mm. And that was when he first really pushed for having more time and set time.
What happens next would be one of the worst outcomes possible for parents who use so-called known donors.
A known donor is someone who knows the woman and has agreed to provide sperm for the purposes of her having a child, generally on the basis that there will be some involvement in the child's life.
Did you have a formal agreement in place with the biological father of your daughter?
No, there was no
No,
need.
because he wasn't going to be here.
Closer to the birth, I tried to initiate an agreement, but that was unsuccessful. Predominantly verbal arrangements that we shared with our friends and family at the time.
It's not legally binding, however...
Lawyer Nicole Evans specialises in same-sex family law and sperm donor agreements.
So this is a donor agreement, and it sets out parties' intentions in going into the arrangement and what level of contact, if any, a donor will have with a child.
Are these sort of agreements legally binding though?
They're not legally binding at the moment, unfortunately. The law just hasn't caught up with how family structures are created today. The mothers relied on state legislation in that the man was a sperm donor and therefore not a legal parent of the child. The man relied on the Family Law Act to say that under the Act he was a parent.
Robert Masson won the first round of the family court battle. The mothers then appealed successfully. So Robert Masson took the fight to the High Court of Australia.
First impression walking in there, it's a very imposing building. You've got 7 judges and 7 attendants in front of you, and we all looked at each other and said, how did we end up here?
We just figured that that was where it was going to go.
Yeah. Finally, in June this year, the High Court ruled in favour of Robert Masson.
For me personally, I was very shocked by the announcement.
Instantly there's a sense of relief, I guess, from the stress and the ability to we feel much more firmer footed and not have any of these sort of legal issues being held over our head.
How much of your own resources have you had to put into defending this case?
Over $1 million.
I think it's very difficult for lesbians who want to have a known donor for reasons that they want the child to know the biological heritage and want that person involved in the child's life. But at the risk now that that person might have some legal status is quite scary for a lot of lesbian couples.
That's it. Is that all there is?
I'm Sarah, I'm Eden's biological mum. This is Eden, my 16-year-old son. This is Godwin, Eden's biological dad. This is Julie, Eden's other mother and my partner. And this is Corrie, partner to Godwin and co-parenting as a dad to Eden.
So pretty straightforward then?
Yes. What could possibly go wrong?
Screenwriter Sarah Walker and her family have an informal known donor co-parenting arrangement. They've followed the High Court case with interest.
Obviously we all decided upon his name, and that was tricky. You've got 4 people with different ideas about what's a great name. That took ages. So all the major decisions were made together, but with the understanding that at the end of the day,
Julie and Sarah have the first say.
If anything, it's good, just for those reasons, like more Christmas presents, more parents. Like, I got 4 parents, and every single one of them I love for a different reason, which is really cool. So.
A few people who had difficulties with known donors had advised me that I should put it in writing. But that in itself felt like a betrayal of trust.
We are 4 very different people, actually.
Well, Corrie and I are on the same page a lot, don't you reckon?
They say their arrangement works, but admit the High Court case will likely have an effect on families like theirs.
This suddenly opens the door to a lot more cases where people are going to be taking each other to court and the children are going to be caught in the middle.
But, we were lucky, and we're probably lucky in a naive sort of way.
So if a couple came to you today, a lesbian couple seeking a known donor arrangement, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them, given your experiences?
I think given our experience with the clinics, I would just recommend a clinic because it's so easy.
I imagine there's a lot of people out there now fearful of what it means for them. I would say that anybody that is thinking about donating and they want to have a role in that child's life, I would say don't do it.
Has it taken a toll on the girls?
Well, it has, but I think it's just made them grow up a bit faster.
Because obviously there's plenty of birthdays, Christmases, maybe weddings for your daughters down the track. How can you overcome the acrimony that you've had with the biological father?
Well, I think you just move on and you just deal with it. Yeah. Life's too short for that sort of resentment and that sort of animosity.
I think with some assistance by the right counsellors, we should be able to get it back onto an even keel.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.